You don't just become a better sleeper and then become healthier. You become healthier and the byproduct is better sleep. So there's a really interesting concept because healthy people sleep well and it keeps that cycle.
Hi, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. And on this show, we talk about everything related to heavy metal and chemical toxicity, the health issues caused by these toxins. And we talk about bioenergetics and anti-aging, more advanced topics on health than you'll hear on other podcasts. And so we don't really do the basics here as much. But today we are talking about some basics. We're going to be talking about sleep because sleep is the most foundational thing in health that you need to master. And a lot of people are always searching for these different protocols and these complicated things to do. And I need more supplements. I need more of that. When really they just need to take a deep breath, step back, and focus on what they need to do to optimize their sleep environment, what they need to, that transition from the stressful day to sleep. And so we talk about all of these things with Dr. Peter Martone on the show. And he's an expert on sleep. We're going to be talking about how light affects sleep, how EMF affects sleep, how your mindset and resetting your nervous system is important for sleep as well. We talk about sleeping in the dark, circadian rhythm management, and food and just all these different things. And there's a lot of things I hadn't heard before about sleep on this show. So stay tuned. It's a really, really important podcast to listen to. And our guest today, Dr. Martone. So he is an educator, injury prevention specialist, and patient care health practitioner who's been focused on improving patient biomechanics for over 25 years. And during his private practice as a chiropractor and exercise physiologist, Dr. Martone always believed that the structure of your spine affects the function of the central nervous system, and this interference is at the root cause of most people's chronic problems that they face, including sleep. And so Dr. Martone now uses his principle as the cornerstone to help people get way better sleep. He's got a course called Way Better Sleep, and his techniques have been featured on CBS, NBC, Fox News, and over 50 international podcasts. And he currently travels the country teaching people how to regain their health in bed by getting way better sleep. You can learn more about his work at drsleepright.com. Dr. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, doctor. I really appreciate it. This is hopefully people don't fall asleep while they listen to this, but we really want people sleeping a little bit better.
We're gonna try to make this exciting because I'm obsessed with sleep. I think about sleep all the time, getting more sleep, optimizing my sleep, which means I'm super boring. I go to bed really early. I start getting ready for bed at 7, if you can believe that, just doing all my little sleep stack that I do. But I want to hear about your sleep stack. And first, I want to hear about why most people aren't sleeping well, because this is something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's the foundation of health. You've got to get sleep right before you're worried about anything else. So tell us about that.
Yeah, to this point, I do believe that there's been um, an inaccurate direction with sleep and helping people sleep, because I will say one word to that: it's trauma, right? So what ends up happening is, and people don't realize it, and there's so much we're going to dive into sleep. We're going to really try to take like a 350-foot view and give people actionable steps, but ultimately what's so we've developed something called the triune of sleep, where when you look at sleep, there are three things at play for you to fall asleep, which we call the setup, and then the execution of sleep is something totally different. So how you put yourself to sleep is really dependent on how the execution of sleep happens. And when you're looking at sleep, putting yourself to sleep the right way, like people are like, "Oh, no, I'm fine, I fall asleep." We're not talking about that. We're talking about your body or sleep as like a battery charger, and you have setup and then execution. If you want the battery to charge correctly, like your body, have the energy, you have to set it up correctly, and people aren't even plugging in the charger correctly. And this is because the fundamental need for sleep is safety. The subconscious brain wants to feel safe. And the subconscious brain is what controls sleep. And most of us have trauma. We live in fear. We have anxiety of the current political situation. You wear a mask, you don't wear a mask, you have a measles shot, you don't have a measles shot. So there's all of these things that people have and they live in fear, and that causing people at a fundamental level not to be able to sleep correctly.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point because I know whenever I'm stressed in my business or stressed about something, your mind's trying to like solve that problem and figure it out, and I don't sleep as well. And I think fundamentally we're meant to live in tribes of 150 people and not know anything about what's going on in the outside world. And we're not supposed to know all this stuff, though I obsessively want to know. For whatever reason, I'm on X scrolling all the time. But yeah, it's not not conducive for sleep at all.
No, it absolutely isn't because, like you said, you made a specific statement there, and I'm going to clarify that. You said you're thinking, and you can't think yourself to sleep. That's the conscious brain. You have to remember yourself to sleep. So your memories, focusing on memories, is what puts you to sleep. Focusing on thoughts is what keeps you up. So sleep is the opposite of control. It's about letting go. And we as a society have a really tough issue letting go and giving into sleep. So the approach that we take here at Dr. Sleep Right on sleep isn't so much just in the brain, it's within the body. And what controls every aspect of your health is what's called the autonomic nervous system. So there are different divisions of that. There are your systems that engage to keep you awake in survival, to run from a tiger, and then there are systems that calm you down, relax, and allow you to thrive and grow. And the trick is to shutting off these systems and turn on these systems so you can hand the baton off to the subconscious brain correctly. So the triune of sleep, really what's critical with it is that there are three things at play. There's the body, the needs of the body, the needs of the subconscious brain, and then the needs of the conscious brain. So when most people fall asleep, I mean, I've dealt with thousands, tens of thousands of people across the globe, millions now across the globe, and they go to sleep, and the first thing they say is, I say, "What position do you sleep in?" And they're like, "Oh, the only way I can get comfortable is to curl up in a ball." I'm like, "Ha ha ha." So they're mistaking comfort for safety because this is not comfortable for the body. Comfort lives in the alignment of the body. So the body, all it wants is comfort. It just wants its weight distributed over the greatest surface area, not to be contorted and twisted. And sleeping on your side, curled up in a ball, is the opposite of that. Then the next thing that comes is the subconscious brain. We have people take an animal sleep avatar test. They can go to drsleepright.com to take it. And that identifies what animal they sleep like. Are you a gorilla? Are you an ostrich? Or are you an armadillo? Can you sleep anywhere sprawled out? Do you need protection? Or do you need to put your head under a pillow to feel ultimately protected and sleep on your stomach?
Yeah, I think
So
I was
once
an
we
armadillo.
yeah, most people
I
are.
was like,
And then
"So
once you
handy for
identify that,
Texas,
then
how
you gotta get the
appropriate."
conscious brain out of its own way. Yeah, it's like, think about that, right? The armadillo curling up in a ball.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah, so that's all really interesting. So what are your suggestions for people? So let's talk about the sleep position that you just mentioned. What is the best sleep position?
So the best sleeping position to put the body in alignment. Now listen, this is not that you we're gonna have obstacles that we're gonna overcome. And the obstacles that we're gonna overcome are gonna be airway, and you're gonna be, "I can't sleep like that," or "My back hurts when it's like that." Those are all obstacles. I've heard every single one of them. But when it comes down to it, the human frame, there are humans listening to this podcast, right? Okay, good. The human frame, I'm talking about every single human on the planet is designed to sleep in a specific position where your body weight is distributed over the greatest surface area and you have as little support to your head as possible. And you want support in your neck. So basically, is this going to be a video or is this an audio?
It's video.
All right, perfect. So I have a little bed here and I have a little pillow down there, which is actually one that we designed called a neck nest, but you might be able to see it right there. All right. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm lying down and the neck nest under my head. And then if you notice, the neck nest is under my neck and my head is off of the back and I'm sleeping like this. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, Wendy. You're saying, no, there's no way. No way can I sleep like that. And I get it because it's not your conscious, it's your conscious brain denying it because your subconscious brain's telling the conscious brain that there's no way I can do that because I don't feel safe. I won't breathe. I have to have something on me. So all of those are the objections, but they're the objections that we need to identify for the subconscious brain. So we put the body in alignment, then, and we only have to fall asleep like this. This isn't, you have to stay in this position the whole night because when you sleep on your side, the average person tosses and turns 20 to 40 times a night because you're in pain. So when you think you're sleeping on one side, you're all over the place at night. And so where the setup is designed, and that's why we say setup first, execution second, but setup is designed to put the body in that position to just fall asleep.
Okay, great. And that makes sense to just support the neck, and that's opening up the airway maximum because I know a lot of people deal with sleep apnea and for various reasons, and that constricts their airway and they open up, they wake up many, many times a night. And that's maybe a separate podcast. It's something you need to get, diagnosed and deal with, obviously, especially if you snore. No, you've got to do a sleep test. You have to. You got to figure that out and address that. So tell us what else can we do? What else can we do to kind of wind down and get optimal sleep?
So winding down is so in order to become a great sleeper, it doesn't just happen when you put your head on the bed. It happens what you do during the day. And we have just launched a project. It's called the Way Smarter Smart Ring Project. And what that is most people when they buy a smart ring, they don't know what to do with the data. Is the data accurate? Nobody knows, and then they get more anxiety about sleeping because 'cause they're tracking it and they're not getting good sleep, and they're like, "Well, what the heck's going on?" And it's causing more anxiousness than anything else. So with our Way Better Sleep, Way Smarter Smart Ring project, it's about understanding that we live our life through our nervous system. Everything we do, say, function, feels happens through that system. When you're listening to this podcast, you're not even sensing reality. Like you're not even listening to reality. You're listening to your brain's interpretation of reality because you're sensing it through your eyes, listening it through your ears. So everything we do happens through some integration of our nervous system, and then it's our perception of our thoughts and beliefs is what really then when we express what we hear is going to be an adaptation to that. So why do I go that deep? I know that's crazy, but that is so important to understand because when you are looking at a metric that you can control and we can understand that sympathetic you can't run from a tiger and sleep at the same time. They're two totally different contrasting, nervous systems. You can't be in survival and growth at the same time. You're either growing or you're surviving. So people that live in that survival state suppress three systems: immune system, digestive system, and reproductive system. People that live in a sympathetic dominant state, fear, anxiety, they're always stressed. They're always, they have muscle tension. They have, shoulder trap tension. They have back pain, neck pain, because they're in this sympathetic state. But something very specific happens to the heart. The heart rate increases in a sympathetic dominant state. But then what happens in a resting, relaxed state? The heart rate decreases. So if we can give you actions during the day to do, and you can monitor real-time readings, which you do, let's say you meditate, let's say you pray, let's say you go into a hot sauna, let's say you ground. Do a specific activity over a certain period of time and monitor which one drops your heart rate the most. And then just do that on a regular basis.
This show is brought to you by Bon Charge, and I want to take a minute to tell you about one of their amazing products that I'm absolutely in love with. So, there's something I've been doing for about 10 minutes a day, and it's wearing a face mask. But it's not just any face mask, it's this Bon Charge red light face mask, and it's essential to my nightly skincare routine now. And believe me, red light therapy really works. It's well established in the research to improve the appearance of your skin. And how it does that is it penetrates deep into the skin to boost collagen production. It reduces the size of your pores. It reduces inflammation and it eases the signs of aging. Bon Charge's red light face mask makes it so easy to take care of your skin. It's kind of like a mini spa session every night that I'm doing. It can be used easily at home. There's no cord, so you can wear it while you're doing other tasks. Plus, the mask is totally painless and it doesn't heat up, unlike some other beauty anti-aging treatments. Bon Charge's red light face mask has been a game changer, and it's part of my everyday skincare routine now. And I'm seeing such great results already from using this mask. My skin is more clear, it seems more plump and fresh and juicy, and my redness and dark blemishes are fading. So there's a very special offer for all of my listeners. Right now, my listeners get 15% off when you order from boncharge.com and use my promo code Wendy at checkout. So this discount applies site-wide. So that's BONCHARGE.com. And you'll also get free shipping and a 12-month warranty. So go now to get this exclusive offer. That's boncharge.com. And with promo code Wendy, you get 15% off. This is one of my secrets to super healthy, young looking skin. I'm trying to reverse the clock. I'm trying to do everything I can to anti-age. And this is one of the secrets in my toolkit. Yeah, that's so smart. I get like at 7 o'clock, I get on my PEMF mat for an hour in the relaxed setting and just try to start winding down at 7 o'clock. So I'm not just starting before I get into bed or think about bed around bedtime. I mean, you really have to transition into sleep and do things that are relaxing versus just scrolling on your phone with a blue light shining in your face.
Yeah, and what's critical is getting the body connected to the circadian rhythm. So the problem is we have all of these lights and we stay up and we push past typical circadian rhythms of the earth. Yes, in the summertime you can push your bedtimes. In the wintertime you want to cut your bedtimes a little bit early. But we want to stay on some sort of regular pattern, whether you spring the clock forward or spring it back. That's why people get sick, because you change it even 1 hour, 4 weeks later, people are going to start getting colds and blame it on allergies. But that's neither here nor there. But basically, we need to keep our bodies in some sort of rhythmic pattern so that you naturally release melatonin. Your body naturally, produces the serotonin. You give your body things to nurture sleep, and it really starts with connecting to you. I like how you said the mat, right? The PMF mat. Go outside and put your feet in the grass, and then just that. So we did yesterday. It was beautiful here in New England, and we just sat outside and we had our feet in the grass, just kinda getting, connected, getting those pot of those free radicals pulled out of your, bottom of your feet, neutralized.
Yeah, and I like what you said about circadian rhythm. It's so important to go to bed at the same time every night, wake up at the same time, and do that on a regular basis. And that's what I love with the smart ring is just, keeping on track with that. I use the Aura. I don't know if the other rings are really very accurate. I've tried a few and have not been that impressed. But, Aura's been around the longest, been tracking data the longest, etc. It just for me, having an Aura ring has really helped to discipline me
Mm.
to go to bed at the same time every night because it lets you know if you're off your circadian rhythm and make sure that you're aware of that. And it helps the discipline because you see if you don't go to bed early enough, you're shortchanging your deep sleep. You get that deep sleep in the beginning of the night and the REM sleep towards the end. So you just, having that awareness really helps to have more discipline with the circadian rhythm.
Yeah, and then tapping into the circadian rhythm is being able to, so the circadian rhythm, you when you tap in, right, you have to understand the body's physiology and it's your state. It's how the nervous system is regulating, and the true balance is between the like I said, the sympathetics and the parasympathetics. Those are controlled by emotions and thoughts. So emotions that drive an awake state, fear, anxiety, anger, hate, greed, these are stimulating emotions which will put you into a sympathetic dominant state. Parasympathetic emotions, love, gratitude, caring, these nurturing types of emotions stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system and healing. So if you can just change your mindset and try to get all of that anger or that stuff out of your head during the day, and I know it's so easy, it's self-discipline of the mind in our program, we call it mindset mastery. It is truly being able to master the, the thoughts and emotions and be able to do it specifically for sleep. It's really, really a good art that people can work on.
Yeah, it's a practice, well, like anything. And I definitely I pray before I go to sleep. I pray to have good sleep, and I'm very specific. Like, God, please, thank you so much for giving me 2 hours of deep sleep and 2 hours of REM sleep. And I'm very, very specific in what I'm communicating to my body that I want it to do. And then gratitude for all the things in my life. And it's a really nice way to fall asleep too. And I feel like that helps shift me into that parasympathetic. Are there any other tips that you have for people to optimize sleep?
Well, yeah, first thing is one of the major things, and you talked about it, is that your body goes through natural cycles, right? You gotta go through the deep cycles, the deep sleep cycles at the beginning of the first 30 of your sleep cycle, and then towards the end, you can have, or even into the middle, you have these REM sleep cycles. So you have deep sleep and REM sleep. Deep sleep's where the body heals, develops, and grows. The REM sleep is where the mind detoxifies and clears out. So if you're not getting good REM sleep, you're gonna live in brain fog. If you're not getting good deep sleep, you're gonna be run down in internalized health issues. So how do we optimize both of those? Well, the toughest one to optimize, believe it or not, is the deep sleep, because in order to get good quality deep sleep, it's really important that your core temperature drops and falls within that first third of your sleep cycle, more importantly, before midnight with most people. So you wanna be in deep sleep before a natural energy spike in your body that typically happens around midnight. So how are you able to drop that core temperature? One of our core pillars in our program. Well, first off, you can't eat late. Eating late destroys sleep, and it destroys sleep because your body is digesting food, and one of the byproducts of digestion is heat. So if you're eating late, you are going even 400 calories within 4 hours going to bed. You're creating heat within your system, and you might fall asleep. "Oh my god, I can fall asleep," but you're not getting good, deep restorative sleep, and so that's a big one.
Yeah, and then you get those blood sugar spikes and the cortisol goes up and wakes you up and you're just a mess. And there's a lot of people like that are pre-diabetic that don't know it, or they're diabetic and don't know it. And they don't realize that late night snacking, when you have less of an insulin response, you're screwing your whole night of sleep. You could have super high blood sugar all night long and not even know it. And you're tossing and turning, and yeah, it's the eating late. I've gotten to the point where I'm eating at 4 o'clock, and I feel like I'm 1,000 years old doing that. But my food's totally digested by the time I go to sleep, and I just don't want that blood sugar issue or the heat factoring into whether I get a good sleep or not.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, and you can, if you caught it wrong or you mistimed it, you can eat something before you go to sleep. It just can't be a heavy, food, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because some people need that. They need a little snack to control their blood sugar. I'm not one of those people, but I wish I was. But I guess some people they might need a little snack because they have low blood sugar. So like God bless you if you have that. That's not me.
Mm,
But yeah, so anything else? So any other tips you can give people? I mean, certainly the light is a
yeah.
huge factor. I think people are just they're really not, calculating how much light affects their health and different types of light and the timing of that, the circadian rhythm of light. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I really like the simplicity of obviously room darkening shades, but I like the simplicity of either putting a pillow over your head, putting a towel over your eyes, or putting a sleep mask on over your eyes, because light pressure against your eyes creates like a cocoon type of environment. If you picture sleeping in a wide open room where you're just in the middle of the room, that open space creates like a sense of I'm not going to be able to fall asleep versus a room that's a lot more enclosed. So as you enclose the space around you, that creates safety, but you can create that by putting pressure on the side of you, putting a pillow over your head, or wearing a sleep mask, then that shortens even that space around you even more, and that fulfills the need of creating safety for the subconscious brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just amazed when I moved into my house I'm in now. There weren't very good shades on the windows, and that I just didn't deal with it for a while, and I slept like crap. And then I literally bought a $20 blackout thing, just something quicker. Just let's just get this done. And slapped it up. And I could not believe how much better I slept without just the light. There was just a light outside my window at night, the street light. And it causes cancers. I mean, it really is, it really has a huge effect just having a small little light coming in through your window, or the light waking you up too early when the sun rises makes a huge difference to have that those blackout
And
curtains.
I won't mention their name, but a very prominent sleep specialist argued on social media with me about the dangers of falling asleep with the TV on. I do not believe your TV should be on. The flickering lights, let's say you're falling asleep and it's a drama and they're shooting guns. How can you tell me that that is not that's okay to do, anything that puts somebody to sleep? I just don't understand it, because you're right. The body, if you're not able to fall asleep naturally, and you need the sound, which is okay, and you use devices to help you fall asleep. I mean, there are sound devices and noise machines. There are other external factors that you can't control, but really, I identify we are designed to sleep. In the fact that we're not sleeping, there are fundamental underlying issues that need to be addressed, and that's really kinda where I stand on that.
Yeah, I think people discount, you know, they discount how many things negatively will impact their sleep. Because I used to think I needed, a long time ago, that I needed this TV to fall asleep. But it was more I just needed my mind distracted. I just didn't know how to train my mind to meditate or not think about negative things or problems or whatever. But it's just a practice. You don't need the TV to fall asleep, or noises or things like that. You have to learn how to meditate, and or change your thoughts to more positive thoughts and gratitude rather than thinking about problems in the to-do list.
Yeah, and it's it's mindset mastery. But you need to know what to master. If nobody tells you that if you focus on caring, gratitude, and love, and prayer, that'll help you fall asleep. They just say, "Oh, yeah, just shut off your mind." No, you can focus on specific emotions, and understand that if you focus on those emotions, live in gratitude, and then you connect that to a memory in the past, then a loving memory, like, let's say you love, I don't know, walking around a golf course, or, just an appreciation of nature around you. You'll fall asleep like that. And if you fall asleep on a memory once, you'll be able to put yourself asleep on that same memory over and over and over again.
I want to say a couple words about one of our Myers Detox podcast sponsors, Qualia Senolytic. So it's a cutting edge formula designed to help your body eliminate senescent cells, also known as zombie cells. So these outdated cells, they hang around, draining your energy and slowing your workout recovery and causing all kinds of havoc and mayhem. So, backed by clinical research, Qualia Senolytic uses 9 plant-based compounds that support joint comfort, sharper focus, and better aging naturally. And here's the kicker: you only have to take it 2 days a month. Simple, backed by science, validated by research. You can try it risk-free with a 100-day money-back guarantee. Go to qualialife.com/Wendy. That's QUALIA life.com/Wendy, and use code Wendy to get 15% off. You want to try Qualia Senolytic. This is something that I've been taking. It's part of my anti-aging protocol because getting older doesn't have to feel like it. Yeah, yeah. And we're talking about basic things here, like, creating your cocoon, but there's 14 different things that can impact your sleep. There's a lot of things that you can undermine your sleep. You have to go through the checklist, but at least, you got to get these basics down, for sure. But can you talk about the phones and just that light at night and what that's doing to us and preventing sleep?
Yeah, put your phone face down, right? just eliminate that. I mean, even flickering lights from a alarm clock, if it's like a really bright blue alarm clock, those lights can trigger and stimulate, because you don't see it, but if you close your eyes in your room and there's an alarm clock right in front of you, if you unplug that alarm clock, you'll see that through your eyelids, right? If your phone's face up and a message comes in, it might be on silent, but when a message comes in, I don't know, mine, maybe I can shut this off, but it turns it like the light turns on or something. And or even like if a snow alert, because I'm in New England, I don't know, maybe like a rain alert comes in, the light turns on. Those things affect you at a subconscious level. Just because you're consciously not thinking about it, your subconscious brain's running your entire life anyways. So we need to talk more to the subconscious brain, not the conscious thing that you think is an issue. You understand that the subconscious brain is always available.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing I did too is I put, hearth lights throughout my house, like in my living room, wherever I am at night, I have the orange hearth lights, so I'm not having this bright blue light that's communicating in my brain, "Hey, the sun's up, let's produce cortisol." And so I think that's a really important factor that I think, people don't think about, but it really impacts you a lot in your ability to ease into sleep.
Yeah, and an easy thing is if you don't have a lot of money, or even if you can't put dimmer switches on all of them, just use candles. Right? Or even a little candlelight, a couple places in the house. It's great. It is so soothing to use that natural candlelight. I love it. We love it. We go when we when it's dark, our entire house is a low light situation.
Yeah, that's a really good recommendation. I hadn't thought about that. But so anything else? Like, what are your thoughts on EMF affecting our brain waves and things like that?
Yeah, so, I have an EMF reader. I go through, I measure the rings, I measure the rooms, I measure the big when the biggest EMF is off of a phone? It's when it's plugged in. So, will go from green believe it or not, I mean, there are certain areas of the phone that will, ring orange, right, which is a moderate level when, it receives something, but on and off, I mean, in general, it's typically on a regular basis unless you're on the phone, it's usually green. But when you plug anything in from that charger all the way to the phone, it's red and it has a red aura. So you do not want this anywhere close to your head, because EMFs, there's more and more research that's coming out, but a general house, if it, unless you have a big, station up front, like one of those, transfer stations, or you have a big cell tower right next to your house. Typical EMFs get blocked through most of the house unless you have a plug right next to your head. You have a plug you're right behind the bed, and anything that's plugged in and is running through a wire, if it's close to you, you got to be really cautious about that.
Yeah, yeah, I think people they don't really factor that in, that that might be affecting their sleep. But yeah, don't want to charge your phone to your head while you're sleeping. That because a lot of people do that. It's
And
very,
you don't
very
wanna be
common.
on your phone when it's plugged in, because that's the most amount of radiation, it's going right into your brain, and then
Yes.
if you're on the phone plugged in, then trying to go to bed, that radiation I don't know what it's doing, but I just know that it can't be good.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's yeah, interfering in your natural brain waves, your brain waves that you need when you're sleeping, or the right frequency when you're sleeping. It's just gonna go in and scramble those, and yeah, big surprise, you're not sleeping well as a result of that. And so let's talk, what about anything else? So you mentioned this model of a pie, and or at some point we talked earlier, you mentioned the model of a pie. And so what is missing in this kind of pie sleep model?
This is so great. So, when you look at so my mission is to help people master this. Like, this is very different than sleep. Master the time they spend in bed to improve every aspect of their lives, creating the best version of themselves. So when you're looking at the time in bed, most people just look at it as sleeping, right? And then just look at it like, okay, sleep, rest, repair, recharge. But they miss the fact that the biggest we live our life through our nervous system. So the glue that connects us together is that our nervous system functions optimally. And that nervous system functioning optimally, especially within the parasympathetic nervous system. This is that nervous system that needs to engage. It's very impacted by your cervical curve, the curve in your neck. And the reason why that is because the vagus nerve, which comes out right underneath, right from the brainstem all the way down, it's 80%, represents 80% of that entire nervous system. When you sleep on your side and you're curled up in a ball, you're distorting the structure due to Wolff's law and Davis's law and the writing reflex. You're destroying the structure of the cervical curve. I've taken tens of thousands of cervical X-rays on patients, and most people that have internalized health issues, it all stems from loss of curve because you're not able to get that parasympathetic innervation turned on. It's like a dimmer switch turning it down. So when we look at the missing glue, the crust that holds us together, people don't sleep well because they have a dimmer switch on that parasympathetic nervous system because of purely the structure. And because the conscious brain is telling us that this is comfortable, we force ourselves to sleep in these contorted positions that are destroying the structure, which is complicating our sleep problems because that parasympathetic nervous system is never able to, the sympathetics aren't able to turn the baton off to the parasympathetics and really get those engaged. So how you sleep, the alignment, starting the alignment first, going all the way back to set up the charger correctly. In the missing crust is the structure, it's the alignment, it's the position you fall asleep in, being able to improve not just your body's ability to sleep once you get it down, but the entire health of your entire system.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because when you're sleeping on your side, your head is kind of in this forward position,
And you're
and
doing
you're
this, you get wrinkles, you're causing maxillary sinuses to close down, airways to close down, jaws to be contorted because you if your spine's like clay, it's hardened clay, the bone, but you can still bend bone. You take a bone bender and you bend it for a while, you're gonna have a bent arm, right? So, if you're spending 8 hours a day, 1/3 of your life like this, what the hell do you think that's doing to your structure? And then everybody's like, "I don't know why I have headaches."
yeah.
You have headaches because you're distorting the structure of the spinal cord itself. Like, I'm like, "I can't believe people don't see it." They're like, "No, there's no problem with me." I'm like, What?" If you look at the next person that has heart palpitations, their head's gonna be tilted off to one side. And once you start to see it, you can't unsee it because most health-related issues are dysregulation in that autonomic nervous system.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. I actually haven't heard anyone articulate it that way, but it makes perfect sense. And also you're probably going to compromise your lymphatic system, that lymphatic system in your brain from draining and detoxing as well, which is so important. And so let's talk about supplements. Are there supplements that you recommend that most people take to facilitate sleep?
Yeah, I mean, I created a supplement. I'm not a big fan specifically of supplementation to sleep. The one that we did is more specific to help people get to deep sleep, and what it does is it just has GABA in it that calms the brain, allows the body to release serotonin, and it has L-arginine, which dilates your blood vessels. Why do I want your blood vessels dilated? Because I want your body to temperature regulate out your hands and your feet so you can drop the core temperature. Also has magnesium in it. So I really like using GABA and magnesium for sleep. I'm not really a fan of melatonin. So GABA absorbs better with a little bit of melatonin, like zero point 0.5 uh, milli milligrams, I believe, of melatonin, not like the 5s, 6s, 7s, and 10s that normal people are taking. So when you're looking at sleep, we want to not try to force ourselves to sleep. We wanna be able to nurture the connection to the circadian rhythm and harmonize with that. So I like scents and I like using those 2 supplements.
Yeah, I love GABA. I think that's so important. I think some people are so stressed out today that we need that GABA to turn off the stress hormones and the stress neurotransmitters and things like that. But as far as, and I think progesterone is super important. I think a lot of people don't sleep because of lack of progesterone. I know I spent my 40s sleeping like crap and feeling like crap and feeling more stressed than I should just from a lack of progesterone. And so I think that's really important to look at and test as well. And even if you have sleep issues, start testing in your 20s even. I mean, a lot of hormone experts I talk to, so they have patients in their 20s on progesterone. And I'm not talking like a little cream, a little wild yam cream. I'm talking, prescription, bioidentical compounded. And, most people, they need a lot more because we're so stressed in so many different ways. We shift our body from making these sex hormones like progesterone to making stress hormones, and all the chemicals and the toxins we talk about on this show also are really working against our hormones. And I think at some point there has to be, yes, stress reduction in place, but I think because of the amount of toxins, there's a lot working against our hormones that you may in fact need to replete those and replace them.
Yeah, and then also think about, like, non-stimulant foods, right? We live from you're really tired, so, "Oh, I need a pick me up." So most people do caffeine, right? They do chocolate. I don't have an issue with chocolate, especially raw chocolate. But, a little bit, um, especially when it's low in sugar and it's natural. But you don't want that caffeine in your system because the half-life in most people of caffeine is 5 hours. So people are they're having a cup of coffee, let's say at noon. Let's say it's a regular let's say it's not the normal coffee, right? It's the Starbucks that has 300 milligrams of caffeine in it. Well, if you do that at noon, then at 5 o'clock you still have 150 milligrams of caffeine. Then at 10 o'clock you still have 75. You want under 25 milligrams of I mean, you want even less than that. But really, for it to not so much affect your sleep, you want under 25 milligrams. You already have too much caffeine, so your heart, people are like, I don't know why my heart's beating. Well, you're having your last cup of coffee was at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Well, I don't have a problem falling asleep. I know you don't have a problem falling asleep, but it's affecting your heart rate's ability to come down, cooling your core temperature to get deep restorative sleep. So then when you wake up, you need the coffee again. So it's this vicious cycle.
So, for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com.
Yeah, and that's so important because we're so caffeine fueled, and people are doing other stimulants as well, and it just really people don't realize how many hours later that affects us. So that's a really important point. And because of course I'm from Texas, so everyone's drinking tea morning, noon, and night with like every single meal, which I love
And then
also.
I'm in Massachusetts, and every car you're behind, you smell weed. And
Mhm.
and listen, I understand that you may need that at some point to calm down, but THC causes significant REM rebound. So yeah, you might be able to fall asleep because you're super calm, but you're not getting good deep restorative sleep. And then at the end, you have these crazy dreams because you're rebounding towards the end and your body's trying to make up REM, and once you detoxify through the THC, then you're sweating in the middle of the night. It's just not the right way to put yourself to sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone is also different in that regard, but yeah, I have seen like there's been research about how the THC does it reduces your REM sleep
Yeah, and it
significantly.
causes that REM rebound at the end, your
Yeah.
body will make it up.
Same with alcohol also, you just get reduced REM sleep, and when you go off of that, you start having all these dreams and all this REM sleep, your body's trying to catch up. But yeah, it's what puts you to sleep doesn't necessarily give you quality sleep for sure.
That's great, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and so why don't you tell us about your program where you teach people all these fundamental foundational things to aid sleep?
Yeah, so we have a site called Doctor Sleep Right, DrSleepright. So we have it's kind of it's a three-tiered system, I guess you can say. So basically, we have the Way Better Sleep Ring project, and the only reason I'm using the ring that we created is because I want everybody in our platform on the same tracker. Because if I'm making recommendations based on different trackers, very, very difficult to be able to consistently get the right data. So you track it, you track your data, you understand your data, and then you work to optimize it. And then we do that during the day, because during the day, you don't just put your head on the bed and become a better sleeper. It's what you do during the day, and then the outcome is that you're a better sleeper. So we have these daily habits and rituals that we put people through. Then we have the setup. In that setup, we call the Way Better Blueprint. It's a way to put people through. They start with by taking their animal sleep avatar test, and then based on what avatar they are, then there are specific things that we have each one of them do to be able to improve their metrics with their ring. Then the last thing is, once they're able to put themselves to sleep correctly, and then we look at what happens with the data, then it's execution. And execution is ultimately where it all lives. That's the mindset, working on those hard things that, our sub-programming of who we were when we were a kid. That stuff is driving our ability sometimes to get deep restorative sleep because of the trauma that we were at. We don't realize it because we don't feel it during the day, but it's really subconscious. So we put people through these workshops that they can go through to be able to help really get at the core problem of it.
Yeah, and that's so important because I know some people, they had a really stressful, abusive childhood. Their stress set point is just going to be a lot higher than the next person. They're going to be triggered easier. They're going to have a harder time calming down. And yeah, you got to work on the vagus nerve and the stress set point and releasing that emotional trauma. I have an appointment in a couple of weeks with a trauma specialist, and it seems like just a never-ending kind of
That is.
project work. I've been working on emotional trauma for like 10 years, doing mostly bioenergetic frequency type work. But I think doing past life regression and all that there's conventional medical research for intergenerational trauma that we carry. And I think that's kind of that last piece I've got to work through. But yeah, it pays dividends. So many dividends to work through all that stuff, not just with your sleep, but with your physical health issues also, because that research from Kaiser Permanente, conventional medical research, showed that over 65% of our physical health issues are from ACEs and emotional trauma. And so it's really important for so many different levels.
Yeah, you don't just become a better sleeper and then become healthier. You become healthier, and the byproduct is better sleep. So it's a really interesting concept because healthy people sleep well, and it keeps that cycle. So you can't just force sleep and then become healthier. So you have to work on it as a 350-foot view, or this complete package. So that's why, I've been, within the autonomic nervous system space and a chiropractor for 25 years. My entire career has been about helping people get over chronic illness by balancing the autonomics. And to be able to do that, you have to understand the autonomics are driven by emotions, and emotions are driven by beliefs, and beliefs are subconscious programs. So it's kind of this. I came from this really, really, I was brought up in a great loving home, but it doesn't matter how loving it is. It's how I internalized other relationships. So like, some people feel bad about saying the word trauma. Listen, and they fear it, like, "Oh, I wasn't traumatic, they weren't abusive." Doesn't matter, it's what trauma is to you is not what it is to the same person. You have two totally siblings living on the same thing that it just internalize things differently because you are who you are, and those are the things that people need to have help and guidance with.
Yeah, and even neglect can really, screw up your nervous system set point as well. I mean, that has a lot of negative effects as well, even if you weren't abused and just neglect. And people have a really hard time identifying that. I know I certainly did. And so, in my opinion, I think mastering sleep is the number one priority you should have for your health. It's the number one thing you should be doing before you do anything else. Nothing else matters. You've got to master the sleep. So I love that you have this course to help guide people through this. And it takes time. It takes time to learn all this stuff and implement it and have discipline and good practice, and you get better and better at it. But I can just say, in my opinion, I had years and years of bad sleep, and it takes years off your life. You gain weight, you get insulin resistant. It leads to many other health issues. So that number one thing you need to be focusing on is your sleep, and mastering that. So tell us again where we can take your course.
Yeah, you can go to DRSLEEPRIGHT.com. You can find out the neck nest, you can find out our programs and all the projects that we're working on. And then they can also go to Instagram at drsleepright.com and then just follow me for free there. And I put all sorts of content out there.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Well, Dr. Peter, thanks so much for coming on the show. I love talking about sleep. Love, love,
Thank you.
love. So that was really, really interesting and fascinating. And I hope you guys got some great tips out of that you can start implementing now. Go get your Aura ring. Don't waste any time on that. You can't change what you're not measuring. So again, thanks so much for coming on the show, Dr. Peter. And everyone, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Thanks for tuning in every week to the Myers Detox Podcast. And I do this show because I'm so passionate about health and teaching you. And I really want you to get out of this show just a few little morsels, just a few little distinctions that you can add to your life and improve your life and meet your health goals, because you deserve to feel good. So thanks for spending your most precious resource with me, your time, and I'll see you guys next week.
The Myers Detox Podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.